The rain had been falling since dawn, stitching long silver threads against the city streets as if the sky itself were trying to wash away someone's pain. For Zara Malik, it wasn't enough. Not today. Not after everything she had survived. She adjusted the scarf covering her hair as she walked toward the upscale restaurant, the one she had never dreamed of entering, her heart trembling like a trapped bird. She wasn't here for herself. She was here because someone had insisted. Because an invitation she never expected had arrived in her hands, from a child. "Daddy, she looks like Mommy," the little girl had said. And somehow, those words had changed everything. Zara pushed open the glass door, the warm light embracing her as she stepped inside. Her shoes were wet from the rain, her palms clammy, her heart thudding as if warning her to turn back. But she didn't. She couldn't. Not after what happened on the blind date earlier that evening. She would remember that humiliation for a lifetime. It had been arranged by a distant cousin who believed Zara deserved another chance at happiness. "He's a good man," her cousin had said. A bit private, but gentle. But when Zara arrived and took her seat at the candlelit table, she waited. And waited. And waited. 45 minutes passed, and not a single soul approached her. The waiter glanced at her with pity. Other diners whispered. Some smirked. Zara's throat tightened. She finally sent a message to the man she was supposed to meet, a polite text asking if he was running late. There was no reply. Only when she stood up to leave, cheeks burning, did she notice a pair of cold eyes in the corner, watching her. Observing her, and then turning away as though she were invisible. She never learned his name. Never knew why he refused to come to the table. Maybe someone told him she was a single mother. Maybe her simple clothes and tired face made him think she wasn't worth his time. Maybe he simply didn't care. Heartbroken, she walked home through the rain, until a tiny voice interrupted her path. "Miss." Zara turned. A small girl in a yellow raincoat, her curls bouncing with every step, waved at her excitedly. "Miss, Daddy says you forgot your umbrella." Zara blinked. "My umbrella." The girl nodded furiously. "Yes, and Daddy wants to say sorry but he's shy sometimes. But I'm not shy, so I came instead." Zara had no idea what the child meant. She didn't have an umbrella. And she certainly didn't know anyone wealthy enough to have a chauffeur waiting beside a black luxury car. "Sweetheart, I think you must be mistaken," Zara said gently. But the little girl shook her head with all the determination of a queen. "No mistake. Daddy saw you at the restaurant. He said you look like Mommy." Zara froze. The words pierced her like lightning. She followed the girl's gaze, and saw him. The man from the blind date. The one who had been watching her. Standing under an umbrella, dressed in dark tailored clothes, tall and impossibly composed, like a storm held together by threads of discipline. His eyes, deep, unreadable, the color of night, were focused on her. And suddenly, guilt flickered across his expression. He wasn't ignoring her earlier, he had been afraid. Afraid of what? Zara didn't know, but as the little girl tugged her hand and smiled up at her brightly, she didn't have the heart to pull away. "Daddy says we're having dinner now," the child chirped. "And he wants you to come. Please." Zara hesitated. A blind date normally didn't involve a child, especially a child this warm and expressive. She looked again at the man. His jaw tightened, as though he were wrestling with himself. Then he gave a small nod. Hesitant, apologetic, vulnerable. And before Zara could understand why, her heart softened. She allowed the girl to lead her to the car. And now, standing inside one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, Zara felt her nerves returning with a vengeance. She approached the table where the man waited, his posture straight but stiff, his fingers tapping lightly against a glass of water. The child hopped onto the seat beside him and grinned at Zara as though this were the best adventure of her life. The man stood as Zara approached. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low and steady. "I should have approached you earlier, but I wasn't prepared." Zara frowned. Prepared for what? His eyes softened with shadows of a pain he rarely showed. "You." The answer stunned her. He gestured for her to sit. "My name is Zaidan Khan," he said. The name hit her like a shockwave. Zaidan Khan, CEO of Khan International, one of the youngest billionaires in Pakistan, a man known for rebuilding entire companies with a single signature. Intimidating, stoic, untouchable, and yet, Here he was, looking at her as though she mattered. Zara swallowed. "I'm Zara," she said softly. "Zara Malik." The little girl squealed. "Daddy, I told you she had a pretty name." Zayden's lips curved. Barely, but enough to surprise Zara. "This is my daughter, Liana," he said quietly. "She usually doesn't talk to strangers." "But she's not a stranger," Liana argued, hugging Zara's arm happily. "She looks like mommy." Zara stiffened. "Your mother," she whispered. Liana nodded without sadness, only gentle honesty. "Mommy died when I was 4. Daddy misses her even now. I do too. But when I saw you, I felt, I don't know. Like the sun came back." Zara's eyes stung. Zayden looked away, jaw clenched. His grief lingered around him like a cold fog. "She shouldn't have said that," he murmured. "It's unfair to you." "It's not unfair," Zara said softly. "Children feel things adults forget how to feel." Something in Zayden's expression shifted, a fragile recognition, a crack in the mask he wore. He inhaled deeply. "I was the one who asked you here," he said. Liana simply delivered the invitation faster than I could. Zara raised an eyebrow. "Do you always send your daughter to rescue your dates?" His ears reddened faintly. "No. This is new." Liana giggled. "Daddy was scared." Zayden shot her a look of gentle warning, but the little girl happily continued. "He said you were beautiful and he didn't know how to talk to you." Zara blinked. Zayden Khan. Intimidating billionaire. Scared. Of her. Impossible. "Liana," he said quietly, "why don't you go ask the waiter for a coloring book?" "Okay." She bounced away, leaving them in a bubble of silence. Zara stared at him, unsure whether to speak. But he was the first to break the silence. "You weren't supposed to see me earlier," he said. "I arrived early for the date, and when you walked in, I froze." "Why?" she asked. "Because you reminded me so much of my late wife." Zara's breath caught. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "No, don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." He exhaled shakily. "I haven't been on a single date since Liana's mother died. My family pushed me. My company insisted I needed companionship. But when I saw you, it felt like déjà vu. Like life was giving me something I wasn't ready to receive." Zara's heart twisted. She had walked into the restaurant feeling unworthy, unwanted. But the truth was something entirely different. "I left because I was afraid you would look at me and see her," Zayden murmured. "And that would be unfair to you. But your daughter said, children see truths adults hide," he finished. "Liana sees joy, hope, light, things I've forgotten how to hold." Zara looked at him, really looked. Behind the polished suit and the cold exterior was a man who had carried too much alone. A man who built empires but couldn't rebuild the part of his heart that had shattered. "Zayden," she said gently, "I didn't come here to replace anyone. I know, and I'm not asking you to forget someone you love. I know that too. Then why am I here?" He met her gaze steadily. "Because when you walked out of that restaurant earlier, I felt something I haven't felt in years." She waited. The fear of losing someone, before even knowing them. Her heart thudded. He continued, voice low. "I don't know what this is. I don't know what will happen. But I want to find out. With you." Zara didn't rush her answer. She glanced at Liana, who was happily drawing flowers, her face glowing with the innocence of a child who simply wanted warmth. She thought of her own daughter, sleeping at home with her neighbor keeping watch. She thought of their struggles, their loneliness, the emptiness she had learned to hide with a practiced smile. "I don't have wealth," she whispered. "I don't have status. I don't need those," he said. "Then what do you need, Zayden?" "Someone who sees me. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. Just me." Zara exhaled slowly. "And what about Liana?" His eyes softened. "She hasn't smiled like this in years." Zara's chest tightened. "Neither have I," she admitted. Something warm flickered between them, gentle, uncertain, hopeful. "So," he said quietly, "will you stay for dinner?" Zara smiled softly. "Yes, I think I will." Liana squealed in joy from across the table. And for the first time in years, the rain outside felt like a blessing, not a burden. As the three of them shared dinner, laughter blooming where sorrow once lived, Zara felt something she never expected to feel again. The beginning of a new story. The beginning of healing. The beginning of a family that fate had stitched together with the simplest, purest words a child could give. "Daddy, she looks like mommy." And for Zayden and Zara, it was the beginning of hope.